Halo 5 Guardians had one of the biggest and most ambitious marketing campaigns in the history of gaming that resulted in the best-selling Halo launch in the entire franchise. After a disappointing player retention rate with Halo 4, the studio behind Halo at the time, 343 Industries, was hoping to energize the fan base with Halo 5's Hunt the Truth campaign that ultimately reinvigorated Halo players in incredible ways and hyped up Halo 5 to astronomical levels. The problem? It turns out that Hunt the Truth was actually a lie. I'm Captain Peach, welcome back to the pit, and today we're going to take a look at the colossal marketing lie of Halo 5. But in order to understand the approach 343 Industries took with Halo 5 Guardians, we need to take a small step back and understand what happened with Halo 4. The launch of Halo 4 in November of 2012 marked a pivotal moment for the beloved franchise, as it was the first title developed by 343 Industries following the departure of Bungie, Halo's creator and previous developer. The initial reception to Halo 4 was largely positive, with critics praising its polished graphics, engaging campaign, and ambitious storytelling. However, the reception of the game's multiplayer was incredibly mixed. It integrated a lot of features inspired by other popular shooters at the time like Call of Duty. These features included such things as loadouts, kill streaks, similar progression systems, and an overall stronger emphasis on quick and fast-paced gameplay. While some players appreciated the fresh take on the Halo formula, others simply hated it, and heavily disliked the departure from the series' more traditional arena-style gameplay. Despite these critiques, Halo 4 sold incredibly well, with over 4 million copies being sold in the first month alone. And to date has sold an estimated 9.75 million copies, which is a lot of do-re-mi. However, that was nearly 5 million copies less than the best-selling game in the franchise, Halo 3, and slightly less than the previous entry, Halo Reach. Companies never want to see sequels perform worse than the previous entries, as this is a sign of franchise decline. And a big factor for the decline in sales for Halo 4 was its abysmal player retention, and this was because of several key reasons. Now, since this isn't a video on Halo 4, I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but the reasons for poor player retention included a big departure from Halo's traditional gameplay as mentioned, strong competition, limited competitive appeal, and less than stellar post-launch support, among other factors. Because of this, the community started to gravitate back towards previous entries in the franchise, and Halo 4 had a huge player drop-off. It was so severe that it caused 343 Industries to end post-launch support prematurely, and effectively abandon the game much earlier than they had initially planned. This heavily influenced the developers to pivot their strategy and attempt to create a wider appeal to the franchise to bring in more players and increase the focus on player retention, while also pushing for a stronger competitive multiplayer experience to increase its appeal as an esport. This culminated in the creation of Halo 5 Guardians. But after the disappointing performance of Halo 4, 343 Industries really needed to reinvigorate the franchise and get people hyped about a new Halo again. They needed a strong hook, which to the public eye would all begin with the launch of an amazing and terrible marketing campaign. The marketing officially kicked off in 2013 with a simple teaser trailer showing a cloaked figure traversing through the desert. By the end of the teaser, it's revealed that the figure is Master Chief, presumably attempting to find a way to bring Cortana back after, spoilers, she died at the end of Halo 4. It's short and to the point, and it keeps the viewer guessing until the reveal of Master Chief. It also shows some mysterious machine and Cortana's AI chip. And it is a perfect example of a teaser trailer done right. It creates hype and excitement through recognizable imagery and sound, but above all, it sets up questions that the viewer wants to get answered. Why is Chief in a poncho on a desert planet? Is it the Ark from Halo 3? Why is Chief's armor damaged? Is Cortana alive? And so many more questions that would cause quite the stir online, with fans sharing theories, trying to figure out what the story was going to be about. Unfortunately, we still don't have answers to most of these questions, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The next piece of marketing would come nearly a year later in 2014 with the announcement of the title, Halo 5 Guardians, a general release date of fall 2015, and a cover image showcasing a new character on top and Master Chief in the reflection below. In this announcement, the studio head of 343 Industries, Bonnie Ross, also detailed how Halo 5 will be bigger than Halo 4 in terms of the scope and content of the game, but also with the technology including a brand new overhauled game engine allowing them to reach new technical heights, including dedicated servers and constant 60 frames per second gameplay. They wanted to deliver the game that Halo fans deserve. This image released was a pivotal one, as we begin to lay the groundwork for the contrast and the rivalry between these two characters that would become the core pillar of the entire marketing campaign going forward, right down to the difference in the color of their visors. It would also highlight, for the first time in a mainline Halo game, another Spartan as the main focus. Slowly over time, we would get more info on Halo 5, including a trailer for the multiplayer beta that would start at the end of 2014, which, as a random side note, was voiced by Will Arnett of all people.
Y'all ready for some hot red on blue action?
Let me ask you something. Is this a business decision, or is it personal?
We would also get the release of a television miniseries, Halo Nightfall, which would introduce us for the first time officially to Spartan Locke. This series gave us a look into the character and some of the backstory of Locke, prepping players for when he would later be revealed to be the main protagonist of Halo 5. But then following this is when things really kicked off. In March of 2015, 7 months before the official release of the game, a countdown began on Tumblr. At the end of that countdown was a release of a short but impactful trailer. If you slow down the trailer, on the bullet are several key words used to describe Master Chief. Among them include victim, recruit, soldier, warrior, hero, savior, and traitor. The trailer represents our perception and everything we know about Master Chief being destroyed using the words we've associated with him, and a new term, traitor, that is the final word that pierces our illusions and shatters his image. The teaser then ends with the phrase, "Hunt the truth." This teaser essentially sets up that something may be wrong with Master Chief and we've been lied to, and we are being called to discover the truth of what is really going on. After the countdown, the site also acted as a front page for the release of a new podcast, following a fictional journalist, Benjamin Giroux, as he uncovered secrets about Master Chief's past, the Spartan program, the morality and propaganda of the UNSC, and questioned the true heroism of Master Chief.
Something broke. Now everything is caving in, and I find myself stuck with all these ugly questions I never intended to ask. Fabricated histories? People who aren't who they say they are? Cover-ups of cover-ups? Who is the Master Chief? Where does he come from? And is he keeping us safe? Join me as I hunt the truth about the Master Chief.
This podcast would run for 2 seasons leading up to the release of Halo 5. The whole time pushing that we should question what we've been told, the morality of the characters in the Halo universe, and ultimately encouraging listeners to, you guessed it, hunt the truth. This podcast was incredibly popular and drew over 6.7 million listeners on iTunes and featured a strong cast of well-known actors, including Keegan-Michael Key, Kobe Smulders, Kumail Nanjiani, holy crow this was stacked, and many others.
Jamar is Jamar, Jamar is Lamar.
It also got the community involved, allowing influencers and their audiences to participate and leave messages for the protagonist that would be featured in future episodes.
Bill Giroux, where do you get off?
You are a crusader, my friend.
Always thought only in the government
I'm
would
talking
fishy
about
ass hell.
zombie children off or they release
With this podcast and teaser, we also got the introduction to the incredibly effective hashtag #HuntTheTruth, which encouraged Halo fans to swap theories and discuss details about the game. The whole narrative the marketing had begun to create was that everything was not as it seemed. There may be moral gray zones, and there might be 2 sides to the stories we've been told. This narrative then gets put into overdrive with the release of 2 immensely viral and contrasting live-action trailers.
Is this what you wanted? Is this what you were looking for? Was everything you've compromised, everything you've done, worth it? Was it? You've completed your mission, Spartan Locke. Mine is just beginning. All hail the conquering hero. Let us remember him as our protector, and not the one who gave us this. As our savior, and not our betrayer. Let us see him forever
as you, and not as you.
All hail the conquering hero. The one who was supposed to save us all. But now I must save us from you.
Oh baby, let's freaking go. These two trailers went incredibly viral, racking up millions of views and spurring a huge online conversation using the before mentioned hashtag #HuntTheTruth. These trailers absolutely dominated and became the second most popular ad campaign at the time, coming in only behind a United Health marketing push. Halo fans were ecstatic, and it attracted the attention of countless new gamers as well. This icon of gaming history, a traitor? Getting hunted by another Spartan? Just like the other images and teasers before, more questions were getting brought up. And this is the first essential step of good marketing to spread awareness of the game and get people talking. Hopefully positively. Once the awareness is spread, it becomes easier to convert consumers into customers. And when these trailers hit, people were talking up a storm. Fans were encouraged to take a side using the hashtags Team Lock and Team Chief, and included in this were cryptic messages, websites, and social media posts designed to keep fans searching for the truth. Not slowing down, 343 kept the momentum going, with more trailers, more podcast episodes, an announcement of a Halo 5 esports championship with a $1 million prize pool, an event where a fan played the campaign while 2,000 feet in the air in a helicopter on the world's largest aerial screen, and even sponsored sporting events including a NASCAR race with Lock and Chief themed cars competing against each other. And at the center of everything was the intense rivalry between Locke and Master Chief, the mystery of Chief's betrayal, and what Microsoft also started calling the greatest manhunt in gaming history. How could this possibly go wrong? There's more gameplay released and live action trailers talking about how Master Chief has died or stressing how he's gone rogue.
We created him, so we're responsible when we can't control him. The only thing worse than losing a hero is watching him turn against us.
And the mystery and intrigue was building to incredible levels, and that also got coupled with a phenomenal launch trailer showcasing the interesting and layered story.
Spartan Locke, I have spent enough years with Oni to know the truth. Once this is over, after all we have done, they will order you to kill us both.
117, stand down. This is your one chance to come home peacefully.
And after all that marketing, the game finally released on October 27th, 2015, and everything would be revealed. The marketing behind Halo 5 was some of the best ever conducted. The trailers were phenomenal, the fan engagement was out of this world, the effort put into the other marketing initiatives like the podcast and the sporting events was superb. And all of it resulted in Halo 5 having the biggest launch in the franchise's history. It earned $400 million in its first week alone. It won the Guinness World Record for the most watched video game launch broadcast, and it became the best-selling digital game ever in the Xbox store for an opening week. Everybody finally got their hands on Halo 5 Guardians and got to join in the greatest manhunt in gaming history. And it was all a lie. At least when it came to the game's story. The conflict between Master Chief and Spartan Locke and the potential traitorous betrayal of Chief were some of the highest selling points of Halo 5's marketing campaign, as I've discussed, and the implication was an expected climactic rivalry between the two characters, a battle of ideologies, and an ultimate showdown that would define the story. However, the actual in-game fight was far different than what was teased, and really was pretty inconsequential to the story entirely. What actually happened? Master Chief gets a message from Cortana and ignores the UNSC to go find her. Because of that, they declare him AWOL and send Locke after him. Locke catches up to Chief only halfway through the game and tries to forcefully detain him. The fight lasts less than a minute in a non-playable cutscene. Chief wins and yoinks right out of there, and they never fight again.
Purple is the color of many pretty things from a lilac.
And in a nutshell, that's the greatest manhunt in gaming history. Because then, the story shifts towards them going after Cortana to stop her from taking over the galaxy. For simplicity's sake, let's quickly go through the contrast between the marketing and what actually happened in-game. For the marketing, Chief is portrayed as a possible villain or rogue soldier. Locke is set up as an equal rival to Chief, the trailers show dramatic high-stakes battles, and they imply a long-term conflict between the two that will culminate in an epic showdown. Conversely, in-game, Chief is just following Cortana's message. There's no actual betrayal. Locke is easily beaten and becomes fairly irrelevant to the overall plot other than near the end. The fight is a short cutscene with no real weight, and their hyped up rivalry is over in one encounter, was never personal, and is never really addressed again. To add to it, the initial teaser footage isn't in the game. The moments from the Hunt the Truth live action trailers aren't in the game in any form. There's no real rivalry between these two characters, and you don't get to take part in any kind of grand showdown. It was all a massive build-up for something that never really happens. It turns out that the truth we were hunting were the disappointments we made along the way. Now, there are a lot of other issues with the campaign, such as you play as Locke for 12 missions and Master Chief for only 3, or problems with the story structure and AI, but there's countless other videos by very talented YouTubers that cover all of that in detail that I encourage you to go look into. The point being, though, this wasn't the greatest manhunt in gaming. It was barely even a manhunt. It was really just a small part of the story that takes a back seat pretty quickly. The marketing sold a game and a plot that never really existed. This all resulted in incredibly mixed reviews of Halo 5, with lots of praises going towards the multiplayer, but a consistently criticized campaign, largely for being different than what was promised. Even games journalists picked this up, with several articles discussing the misleading marketing, the outright lies of some of the trailers, and the disconnect between what was advertised and what was actually released. Even Microsoft has recognized this disconnect, and has since deleted the Tumblr and the live-action Hunt the Truth trailers from nearly all of their social channels. Marketing needs to be aligned with what will be delivered. Of course, you can show off the good things and hype the game up, but it needs to be representative of the player experience. And while Hunt the Truth was a great marketing campaign and resulted in millions of social interactions and impressions, it didn't represent the game and it left fans severely disappointed. And even though 343 accomplished a lot of what they set out to do with the multiplayer, which a lot of people enjoyed and reinvigorated Halo as a competing esport, it wasn't enough. Whatever your thoughts are on Halo 5's campaign, even if it's the best and greatest campaign of all time, if the consumer feels like they were lied to and deceived and promised a completely different game, their initial reaction will be downright negative. Negativity, unfortunately, spreads much quicker and farther than positivity does. You can just look at the news for a great example of this.
The man most commonly known as the Master Chief died.
Clapping cheeks!
If somebody has a negative experience, generally they'll tell 2 to 3 times more people than if they have a positive one. And this marketing campaign, in the end, resulted in a lot of negativity about the game, as the advertising for the game's story and the actual experience weren't properly aligned. This negativity in turn affected Halo 5's longevity. Now, the exact sales numbers for Halo 5 aren't fully known, but what is known is it sold at least 5 million copies within the first 3 months, and some of the estimates I've seen place the current number at 9.5 million copies sold, which puts it below the sales of the previous 3 main Halo games. And yes, while the Xbox One hadn't sold as many units as the 360 at the time, which would sway some numbers, the fact of the matter is since Halo 3, each game has sold worse than the previous one. But considering the sales for Halo 5 were very close to the previous entries, if the game had fully delivered on its marketing promises, I have no doubt we would have seen a return to Halo's former glory. And you can see that the reception clearly hurt the game in the fact that it had the biggest launch in the franchise, but couldn't beat the sales of past games. And the fact that Microsoft never released any official updated numbers means it probably wasn't anything to write home about. And the poor reception to Halo 5, at least towards the campaign, also caused 343 to pivot again, build a new game engine, and create a soft reboot of the franchise with their next installment, Halo Infinite, with the promise that that game would last for 10 years. But true to 343 fashion, it didn't work out as planned, so they have now pivoted again to a complete studio rebrand, which you should definitely be cautious about. I'll link at the end a video explaining why. Halo 5 could have been so much more, and a change in marketing wouldn't have changed what the developers created. But at least customers would have had a better idea about what they were buying, wouldn't have felt lied to about the campaign, and wouldn't have felt betrayed by their favorite franchise. I saw a couple of recent comments on some of these trailers I've mentioned, talking about how these are from the perspective of the UNSC and ONI, and are meant to show the propaganda these organizations create. If this really was the intent of 343, this would have been a really cool idea. But for it to work, it would have had to been much more overt. Somebody watching a random television ad or seeing a NASCAR race isn't going to automatically assume that this is propaganda from an in-game organization. Heck, I don't think anybody thought this was propaganda before the game launched. and even since then, I've seen very few people mention it, which means it didn't do a good job at all if that was the intent. However, this is all pure speculation. I think the problem lies in that 343 didn't actually make the Hunt the Truth marketing campaign. The whole concept of the campaign, the podcast, the hashtag, the social initiatives, the website, and the 2 viral live action trailers were made by a third-party marketing firm called Eisenberg.
Say my name.
No, I don't think I will.
Now, this isn't completely out of the ordinary, as Eisenberg had worked with Microsoft before on other projects. And for a massive marketing campaign like this, you definitely need all the help you can get. But what I suspect happened is that when Eisenberg was tasked with making a viral social media campaign, they were either handed an earlier version of the story that they ran with, and the other marketing teams followed suit, or they were given less oversight and had less collaboration with 343 than they probably should have, and simply did their own thing. Or maybe Microsoft simply knew that the story for Halo 5 wasn't that amazing and decided to spin the Hunt the Truth narrative to get more people engaged. We may never know for sure. Deceptive marketing, whether intentional or not, may gain quick sales at the beginning, but in the long term will severely hurt the trust of fans and players and ultimately damage the brand. So much so that future games will be affected. The next time that same company comes around with a new game, people might think twice about buying it. And if you keep growing that distrust, you might lose hardcore fans forever. But hey, that's marketing. If you liked what your peepers peeped, slap the subscribe button and let me know down in the comments what you thought about Halo 5. Did you feel lied to by its trailers and marketing, or was the game pretty much exactly what you expected? And if you want to watch the video I mentioned earlier about the Halo rebrand, or how a single trailer nearly killed Call of Duty, click on one of the videos on screen. And until next time, stay peachy.